This is a Midwest Minute with Matt. Simple concussion conversations that just make sense. Before we get started, just a quick note. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not medical advice and does not replace evaluation or treatment from a qualified healthcare provider. Listening to this podcast does not establish a provider-patient relationship. Every brain injury is unique, and what we discuss may not directly apply to your situation. If you're experiencing symptoms or have concerns, please seek care from a licensed medical professional. If this is an emergency, call 911 or your local emergency services immediately. Hello and welcome to another edition of a Midwest Minute with Matt, simple concussion conversations that just make sense. I am your host, Matt Campbell, and today our episode number 12 is titled, Will I Ever Feel Like Myself Again? One of the most heartbreaking questions I hear from patients has nothing to do with symptoms. It's not talking about when headaches are going to go away or when our dizziness gets better or when can I get back to work. It's, will I ever feel like myself again? After a concussion, you may still recognize yourself, but you don't recognize the things that you're doing on a day to day basis. Today, we're going to talk about why that feeling happens and why it's something that we have to address during your concussion recovery so that it doesn't define you in the future. Concussions aren't just about the symptoms that affect your body. It affects our confidence, our routines, our ability to go to work or go to school, our ability to be in certain environments or in different social situations. It can affect how we see ourselves as individuals. And the big one is it affects the relationships with people around us. We don't have the same feelings that we get with people around us. And when we don't have those same interactions, we can lose relationships. Something that I talk about with all of my adult patients is the concept that life doesn't stop after a concussion. As a younger person, we can kind of control your environment. We can control what you're doing and where you're around. But as an adult, there are things that we have to do to keep going. Bills continue to come in. We still have relationship responsibilities and roles. I still have to be a mom or a dad. I still have to be a spouse. I still have to be around and do those things. And when those things suffer because somebody's dealing with increase in symptoms, we tend to lose that sense of self-worth. Physically, we see the person in the mirror and understand that we recognize that person, but we don't recognize what that person is doing or what the relationships are happening around us because of the brain injury itself. Sometimes the biggest loss that people will experience isn't what we're doing or not able to do. It's feeling like we don't know the person that we've become. We see ourselves in the mirror, but we don't know who that person is looking back at us. During concussion recovery, you may notice that you have less patience, lower energy, a reduced confidence, increased anxiety, less social engagement, emotional changes. You may notice that there are a bunch of different things that happen to your personality. And these changes can make you question what's going to happen in the future. Am I ever going to get better? Am I going to find a way to repair these relationships? At the end of the day, I need to make sure that I'm getting better and back to my normal self before I can even think about trying to mend fences that may have changed, try to rebuild relationships and try to gain new friendships and new relationships. The challenges of not being able to build those relationships will lead to that question on, oh man, what am I going to do if this is forever? How am I going to get through this if this is what I'm going to deal with every single day for the rest of my life? That tends to be why people who are working with me will ask the question of, will I ever get better? Concussion recovery isn't hard for everybody. Some people, they'll recover pretty quickly. But realistically, concussion recovery is hard for some people. We lose that sense of self. I talk a lot about concussions not being a life-threatening injury most of the time. There are still some times, but most of the time it's not a life-threatening injury. But if you try to tell me or convince me that it's not a life-altering injury, I will go back and forth with you forever with that because I've got a number of patients that I've worked with that it does alter our life. The goal is that it only alters our life for a short amount of time, but it can completely change and not always for the bad. There are some times that after concussion recovery is completed and we're going back, we learn certain things in our concussion recovery that we can implement in our day to day life. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to take time to take care of myself if I'm so used to taking care of others. Those are examples of good things that we can learn during concussion recovery that we can implement into our day to day routines after the fact that will change who we are as people. Just because during concussion recovery that you feel different, it doesn't mean that they're going to completely change your identity forever. It's a temporary change. For some people, temporary is shorter than for other people, but it's a temporary change on who we are, and it will allow us to focus on the idea that we will get back to our normal self if we can continue to look at it as a temporary change. Overall, our identity isn't lost, but it's temporarily disrupted. Recovery often changes how we function on a regular day, but it doesn't erase who you are as a person. Even though we have to make some changes or some alterations to what we're doing, or try to put some hobbies on the back burner and come back to them later, even though there are certain things that we might identify as core values. If I'm working with a high level athlete and they're struggling to get back to their sport, I've only identified as a basketball player or a hockey player or a football player my whole life. What happens if that sport disappears? The mental side of things that we identify ourselves with being taken away from us is a change in our identity. And it is very difficult to navigate no matter who you are or how good you think that your mental health was before the injury. When concussions make us change our identity, it's not for forever. It's a temporary change, but that doesn't mean that it's an easy change to understand. Recovery doesn't erase your identity, it temporarily interrupts how we're able to express who we are. So, even though it's a temporary change to our identity, rebuilding yourself doesn't happen quickly. It happens slowly over time. We have to focus on the idea that rebuilding confidence through routines, consistency, progress, meaningful activities, relationships, it's small, consistent wins over time. If you've ever listened to me talk or have been listening to the podcast, you understand that one of the core themes is small wins are big wins. Any win that we can get needs to be celebrated. Don't overlook the small wins. Concussion recovery happens when we take small wins and stack them together consistently over time. As we stack those wins together, that will slowly rebuild your confidence. If I'm able to go to the store today, even though I couldn't last week, that's better. If I am able to read a book for the first time, that's a big win. If I'm able to get back on the ice or get back on the court or the field and I can be out there, even though I got symptomatic, I was at the arena, I was at the gym, I was at the rink, and I was able to be there. Those are wins. Now, did we feel great when we were there? That's the next challenge and the next win that we have to do. But we got up, we got out of the house, we did something. That is a win that needs to be focused on. Our identity will rebuild as recovery progresses. And it's the same thing that we need to work on when we're looking at trying to rebuild our confidence. Rebuilding our identity, rebuilding who we are, and finding ourselves again happens slowly but consistently over time as you start to recover. It's not a one size fits all approach, and it's not something that's all going to come back at the same time. It's one small step at a time, putting your right foot in front of the other and slowly walking up the hill with somebody who can help you along the way. Concussion recovery is not easy. It doesn't come quickly. There are very few major jumps in our recovery patterns, but gradually you start to see progress. The more that we're able to do, it's harder to see that progress because to you, I'm just doing what I'm normally supposed to do. Those are big wins. I got up to go to work, but yeah, man, I've been going to work for the last 30 years. But there was a time 2 weeks ago where you couldn't. We have to change how the mindset works, and we have to change how we focus, and we take for granted the things that we've done forever that after concussions are so difficult. We have to make sure that we're pointing those things out. And that's why working with somebody who can really help you see those is key. It's key to establish a concussion support system. We have to have somebody around us who can help us on the days that are hard. You would be surprised at a majority of the time that I'm spent talking about positivity and mindset and seeing small wins. It's not with patients. It's with their support system, their spouses, their friends, their coaches, their employers. It's about the people around them and trying to figure out how they can help. If you break your arm or you break your leg, it's easy to help. Like, I can carry something for you, or I can help you get up the stairs. Like, that's easy to see. But when it's a brain injury, people will struggle with trying to figure out how to help. And the more that we try to struggle with that helping, the more the person that's dealing with concussion recovery can isolate, because there's friction points. They're struggling with building relationships because they have a limited capacity for tolerance, they have a limited capacity for information or conversation, and they're struggling with emotional regulation. The person that's trying to help, one of the easiest ways to help is, how you doing? How you feeling? Well, you ask that question so many times and I'm not seeing improvement, you're going to find out how not good I am feeling. I'm going to fight back. I'm going to get really frustrated or angry, and that's going to lead to a broken relationship or a strain on the relationship at minimum. And now all of a sudden, we have a patient who's losing the people around them, that they're losing the identity behind who they used to be, and now relationships are falling apart. It's very common for them to sit down and go, am I going to heal or not? Am I going to get better? And that's something that we have to address. It's not something that we can ignore. If you've been wondering whether or not you're going to feel like yourself again, just understand that yes, concussions will temporarily change our activities and temporarily change our identity. But I need you to understand that the word temporarily exists for a reason. Don't feel like you're alone if you've ever been wondering that, because it's human nature. The longer we don't feel good, the harder it is to remember what good feels like. And trust me, you're not asking the wrong person when you're trying to figure out, looking in the mirror, whether or not that am I ever going to get better? It's very normal to internally question things as you're going through concussion recovery. Give yourself permission to heal. And what I mean is not just physically. Give yourself time and grace and permission to go through the recovery process. Cut yourself some slack. You are doing a ton of hard work during concussion recovery. Don't beat yourself up if you're struggling and having a couple bad days in a row. Physically, mentally, emotionally, it's all a piece to the puzzle that we have to figure out how to put back together again. Because recovery isn't just about getting your brain back, it's about getting yourself back and getting your life back on track. If this episode helped something click for you, share it with somebody who needs it. If you're looking for guidance, support, or clarity during your own concussion recovery journey, you can learn more at mwconcussion.com. If you'd like to be a guest on a podcast, feel free to reach out. DM me here on our social media accounts at mwconcussion, or you can send me an email at matt@mwconcussion.com. I would love to have you on and have another Midwest Minute with Matt.